Hello everyone, this is Ben with your Star Ren Winter Update. This winter, testing is optional for Star Renaissance. However, there are three big reasons that I can think of that you might want to re-administer Star to your students in December or January. The first is to get a mid-year check on overall growth. The second is to get a mid-year check on standards mastery for either individual students or your whole class. And the last is to get a formative SGP. You should know that students should generally take the same assessments this winter that they took in the fall. And last, that winter testing will have no effect on fall to spring SGPs. So whether or not you actually test this winter won't matter come spring. Okay, so for the winter testing window, it runs from December 1st through March 31st. You can test any time in there to get an SGP. You can also test up to twice monthly if this is part of RTI or something else, because the test is adaptive. And you should know that the test taken closest to January 15th will be used to calculate fall to winter SGPs. So if you test now, you will get an SGP from their fall test to whatever test is taken closest to that yearly midpoint, which we've set as January 15th. Again, this is all formative, and we'll have more info in a minute. All right, so reasons to test number one. If you want to get a mid-year check on growth, you can use what's called the annual growth report under reports. I'm showing it right here on the left. You'll see here two blue dots. These are the two tests actually taken by this sample student. One was taken, looks like September 18th, and then they retested again on December 5th. And the green lines, you'll notice next to these blue dots, actually show the average growth for students at the 25th, 50th, and 75th percentiles nationally. So it looks like this student, based off how they did in the winter, it looks like they're actually growing faster than the national average, if you will. They started off at about the, 30th percentile? Or sorry, no, it looks like 39th to be exact down here. And they grew in their winter test to the 48th percentile. So it looks like they're making more growth than their peers nationally. To find this test, you'll look under reports. Oh, and it looks like I've made a mistake. It's actually called the annual progress report. I've highlighted it here with a red circle. All right, reason number two to test this winter is tracking standards mastery. So perhaps you want to take a look at how either each student or your whole class is doing on the California Common Core State Standards. Here's a sample of the class report. And again, as usual, you can see which students are meeting each standard. It'll show each standard for your grade level, and then whether students are estimated to be above mastery, within mastery, or below mastery at this time. Again, here, the names have been blocked out to protect the innocent. All right, here's the last reason that you might want to test this winter. It's to get a formative SGP for this year. So in order to get that fall to winter SGP, students must take the same test from the fall. So if they took early lit this fall, they should take early lit this winter. Same with the reading test. This really will probably only apply in first through like third grade. These SGPs are formative. Again, they won't count for anything. And again, the winter test taken closest to that January 15th midpoint will be used to create that score. To actually get this report, you'll go to Growth under Reports. If I look back on the previous page, you'll notice it's the very first report available for each test. And you'll see that for each student, it shows their grade level, it shows their SGP, it shows the dates they tested, and lots of other data points, including Lexile, which I think is pretty cool. Under the SGP, you'll notice that this top student had an SGP of 98. That means that they made more growth from the fall than 98% of their peers, if you will. And then the student at the bottom had an SGP of 1, which means that they made more growth than basically none of their peers nationally. So right away, you'd probably want to look at this student and say, hey, what's going on? All right, last thing, early lit versus reading. If you are going to re-administer this fall and you're in K2, here's what you need to know. In general, again, everyone should take the same test they took in the fall. However, if you had students that took early lit and they score above 775, on the early lit test either in the winter or in the fall, they are a probable reader according to the test, and they can also take star reading. If you aren't sure where to find this information, it's under the summary report. When you actually run this report for early lit, you'll see all the students' names, and then on the far right, their literary classification, which runs from early emergent reader all the way to probable reader. And again, we can see that 775 is that sort of cut point, at which point they become probable readers. If you are to move students up to star reading this winter, that's fine. But you want to keep in mind that students will still need to take the same test this spring that they took in the fall. So if they end up taking reading this winter, they will need to go back and take early lit again during the spring to measure growth. And last thing, kinders can only take early lit. The reading and the math tests are not built for them, so please again only have them take the early literacy test. That's it. If you have any questions, please get in touch with your lead teacher, your data driver, or your principal, or of course get in touch with me. My information is up here on the screen. And yeah, hope everyone survived Stormageddon 2014, and all the best for the holidays. Take care.